Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Sindhu Blume.
And I'm Scott McCandless. It is the week of June 9th, and this is your Monday briefing. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is making its way through the Senate, where Republicans are still committed to passing a bill before the July 4th recess, with hopes that the House could then pass it without further changes.
Other items of note, the U.S. and China are holding trade talks today in London. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will testify at several committees this week, and we'll see consumer price index numbers on Wednesday morning. The markets are watching for the impact of tariffs on the economy. And today we're going to focus on the One Big Beautiful Bill with Mark Prater, a managing director in PwC's Tax Policy Services practice. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Sindhu. Scott, pleasure to be here this morning.
So, Mark, what can we expect in the Senate this week?
So, the Senate leaders and the House leaders and the White House have put pressure on a July 4th signing event. If you walk back from that, then that makes that week of June 23rd really, really critical, because that's the last week before the recess and would sink in with that timeline. That means this week is a week where we'll still continue to see committees processing text, kind of committee by committee, and the Byrd Rule process continuing. And we'll be seeing a lot of efforts to kind of nail down very specific things. Finance is also involved in that, but we don't expect to see the Finance Committee bill till the tail end, because it includes some really tough issues, Medicaid, the tax issues that we all care about, et cetera. Now, that's the aspirational deadline. Maybe they're not in a position by the time they finish the bill in late June to have it go to the House and send it to the President. If that's the case, still important to get the bill done that last week. So there's a lot of pressure there. And so this is really a key period that we're in.
So we're waiting for text from Senate Finance Committee, and I just want to remind everybody we're in week 2 of a 4-week work period. So you're saying week 4 we would see something? Possibly. I think right now we can expect other committees to produce text this week. And so the week after, sometime early next week, I think we should expect to see Finance Committee text. Okay. And then the week after that, of course, you'll have some kind of substitute or document on the floor that Leader Thune would call up to make the base for debate. Okay.
Mark, we had Rohit Kumar here last week, and he laid out some of the large-scale challenges that the bill faces in the Senate. Now that we're in week 2, could you drill down a little bit more on what some of the challenges are specifically, and maybe specifically on the tax side?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So Rohit's assessment of the challenges remain the same. Those are the same challenges. They have to tackle those challenges. And in addition, we have a new challenge that seems to be bubbling up, and that's the White House kind of taking a position that some of the tax-based changes, R&D expensing, for instance, the interest limitation rules, going back to the EBITDA standard, but most importantly, bonus, 100% bonus, to maybe stick more to the House timeline than the Senate desire for permanence, which has been a long-standing ask for the Senate. So that's a set of issues they'll have to work out that wasn't apparent last week. So that will add to it. In addition, of course, senators are hearing from constituents on all of these different provisions from the House bill, wanting to tweak some here and there, wanting to deal with some of the offsets, and then additional things that senators may be interested in.
All right, and I want to turn to a provision that has been getting a lot of coverage, which is the Section 899 provision, in which the U.S. would tax companies and certain individuals from countries that the U.S. has deemed imposes unfair taxes on U.S. companies. So everyone's been wanting to know about this provision. What are the chances of it just going away?
So, Sindhu, no one should be surprised that we are where we are with Section 899. And the reason for that is, you go back about roughly 2 years ago, Ways and Means Committee Republicans put out a proposal on the kind of graduated rate hikes on individuals and corporations, if, as you said, they're inside that targeted group for that treatment. And the beat changes, those were also a bill that was introduced almost 2 years ago. So those measures have been out there. And then the other thing that's a factor here is the White House. The first day the president came in and released all of those executive orders, one of them was on Pillar 2. And then there were some addressing DSTs as well. So the Republicans have been in sync since the changeover in power with being aggressive on this retaliation business. Now, having said that, they also say that they really do not want these provisions to go into effect. So they're likely to stick with us. Having said that, there are also folks in the Senate who are listening to the concerns folks have, some of the inbound companies and then others, on how those provisions work. And they're listening. And so we may see some changes there, but Section 899 looks like it's likely to stay.
Okay.
And it overcame a bird rule challenge, as we heard, with respect to committee jurisdiction, and it looks like it's overcome some other ones there. So the procedural challenge is not there anymore.
And maybe a quick note for our viewers that Sindhu had a chance to speak with Nita Asher about the mechanics of the Section 899 provision. A link to that episode is included in the description of this episode and will play automatically after this episode. So Mark, coming back to you, in addition to 899, when you talk with the Hill, when you talk with companies, what are some other issues that are vexing them and potentially subject to a lot more scrutiny?
So Scott, two really big ones. One is the IRA credit changes that are in the House bill, especially some of the late changes that occurred with the Rules Committee amendment. Those are a big issue, kind of fall into two buckets there. One is the phase-outs, the tighter phase-outs, the tighter beginning of construction date for some of the projects. And then the other is what's called the Foreign Entity of Concern language, or FEOC language. Those provisions have caused a lot of discussion. I think there's an effort there to look over and make them, as members and staff say, more workable. Then the other one is, of course, the SALT cap. So the House's effort to lift the SALT cap and some of the related changes to that have not met with a lot of love in the Senate. So the senators are there evaluating how they respond to it. But then also, I think, realize that for the bill to get through the House, some lifting of the SALT cap has to occur. So that's a huge issue. In addition, there are other, mostly offset-generated concerns, some on the private foundation side, some on the endowment tax, excise tax changes, and then one on dealing with remittances, a new tax on remittances. So those have all sparked a lot of discussion, and we don't have a lot of time per our earlier discussion. So it's a very intense period.
It's incredible. Mark, thank you so much for laying this all out. They've got a lot to do in the next 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Sindhu.
Sure.
And in case you missed it, Mark was on Week in Review last week, and a link to that episode, recent tax insights, and a list of events happening in Washington this week are also all linked below.
And happening today is a PwC webcast at 4 p.m. Eastern titled 100 Days In, What Executives Are Doing Now, Insights from PwC's Pulse Survey. You'll find a link to register below. And thank you, as always, for spending this time with us, and we hope you have a great week. Take care.